energy management. And I write down things.
Mav's Coffee Clarity with Denise is brought to you in partnership with Drive Media and Consulting and their premier sponsors. Subscribe on your favorite streaming platforms and share. If you just found us, welcome. And if you're a regular, welcome back. Denise Digrigoli has spent her life in the creative industries as an entrepreneur, helping people transform their visions into thriving businesses, working with individuals and teams to find their purpose and live their life vibrantly. On her pod, Denise delivers business intel and life hacks with wit and wisdom in short shots like a strong espresso with a solid sense of humor. Enjoy this episode of Mav's Coffee Clarity, and here's Mav.
Welcome, my friends. You're on Mav's Coffee Clarity with Denise. We're a show designed to move you forward in work, life, and self-care. One cup, one conversation at a time. And come on, who doesn't need that nowadays? I like to think of us as like coffee with a friend. You know, some of the best conversations I've ever had are over a warm cup of something. In my case, I happen to love coffee. It's always brought me a lot of clarity. So if you listen in to some of these maverick interviews, people from all walks of life, entrepreneurs, creatives, doers, forward thinkers, and you walk away with one thing that helps you move forward in whatever you're doing, then we've done our job. On the weeks that I'm not interviewing someone, as in the case of today, Wednesday, it's just me, Mav, with a short shot. And what we do on this show is we do it in unedited format. So it's unfiltered, real, witty. Why? Because we're busy. And I like 27, 36, or maximum 45 minutes for the interviews. When it's me, it's just about 15 minutes. All right, so buckle up. I want to share a couple of thoughts with you today on some questions that were asked of me. And I think these are resounding questions that many people come across in their daily being, if you will. So I was on a panel in the Berkshires, and the question was, with all parts of life being so busy nowadays, do you have tips on how to balance your work life and your personal life? You know, this is an interesting question. Balance. I think of balance as this thing that's a moving target. Balance is a constant state of motion. And, you know, I see myself like juggling some coffee cups and a laundry basket and my cell phone and my email and my family time and my work time. And it's like, Mwah. So balance is a constant state of motion, and I'd like to say emotion. What do I mean by that? Kind of visualize a pie, whether you cut that pie in 6 slices or 8 slices, and envision the key areas of your life. Maybe that's work or professional development. Maybe that's family and home life. Maybe that's your spiritual life, your financial life, your recreational or hobbies, your health. Think of your key areas, right? And let's say you're in the middle of a job search and all of your attention is going to your job search. So that section of the pie expands because you're giving it a lot of attention and energy. And maybe other things suffer. Maybe other things shrink in the pie. Maybe you don't have enough time for your friends, or maybe because you're looking for a job, you don't have extra money to go on vacation. So those other pieces kind of shrink until you get that job. And then things rebalance, right? And maybe now the job is great, but you don't have enough time to spend with your family. So life is a constant state of balance. I don't know if it's ever 100% euphoria. Maybe it is. Maybe you have zero worries and, you know, every area of your life is completely balanced, but that hasn't been my experience with any of my clients or myself. So I prioritize my energy management, right? So you could say my spiritual, physical, and mental health. And how I do that is I set the tone of my day in the morning. I actually have a non-negotiable routine in the morning for energy management. And I write down things that I have to do that day. I prioritize them. And I write down things how I expect them or I intend for them to come out. So let's just say I'll hypothesize with you for a second. I have to go for a medical test and I write down, I got a medical test at whatever time, 10 o'clock, and, the result is, better than expected or, a perfect mammogram. Okay. So sometimes it's proactive and you could say it's wishful thinking. I say it's proactive thinking, and then I let go of the attachment to the outcome. I just set the energy forward that it's going to be okay. And I do that with everything in all areas of my life, whether I'm working with a new client or I'm helping someone that is, struggling through something, or I need to achieve something. I set the best intention forward. I'll call it the resting energy rate. I'm not going to say, I know there's this whole phrase, resting bitch face rate. I don't know. Don't like those kind of negative words. It kind of flutters me and frustrates me. I like to set my energy at a positive rate. And I know people say, oh, too much positive thinking, Denise, it doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. Whatever wolf you feed, my friends, is the wolf that grows. So I have a non-negotiable morning routine where I set my energy management. I try to clear my mind. I might do a little praying. I might do a little meditating, but I definitely write down things that I have to do and how I expect them to turn out. And I write them down as if they turned out that way. And I'm going to tell you something. Most of the time, it works out. Not all the time, and there's that old adage, sometimes you don't get what you want, and that's a blessing too. So in the question, I answered, energy management is just as important as time management. If you're drained, your energy, your battery's low, you're not feeling well about yourself, and I could say, we all have imposter syndrome, or we all don't think we're good enough, and many of these things could be true for us at any given time. So I set the tone of my energy. And there's days that I'm off and my energy setting is a little more challenging than not, but it's something I do, like brushing my teeth. Who would not brush their teeth every day before they step out of the house, right? It's sort of like I just set the tone of my energy. Then I can be better at time management. I can be more productive at the things that come at me unexpected and the things that I plan to do. And we've talked about on the podcast before, time management and working in time blocks. And, there's so much that's required of all of us. So nowadays, whether we're in the sandwich generation, taking care of our aging parents, or we're taking care of children, or we're trying to achieve something. This is what I mean. Balance is a constant state of emotion and motion. We are always balancing our emotions and the things that we need to achieve. So my answer was, I think of it more as a rhythm. And my go-to life hack is that morning routine. I start my day off with an active meditation, reflection, a journaling practice that helps me set the tone. And I definitely make time for movement in my life. Like I exercise minimum of 3 times a week. And I find that just keeps me, and am I a gym rat? No, my friends, not at all. I do a variety of things, but I make sure that I find some kind of movement and something that resonates with me. Years ago, I had a trainer who was absolutely fantastic that helped me kind of get into just a healthy mindset for establishing a weekly exercise routine, which I found so daunting. Like, why do I have to exercise? But once I got into it and I committed to it and I made it part of my energy management, not just part of my time management where I blocked out time for it, but when I made it part of my energy management, like it helped my energy recycle, it helped me revive, it helped me feel better, then it became more palatable, right? Think about that. We have to make time. There's an old adage I'll say in sales, when we say, I don't have the time. I didn't have the time for that. That means you didn't want to make the time. So before I think about my time management, I think about my energy management. Is it good for my energy? And if it's good for my energy, it fills up my battery, then I have more to give. And when I have more to give, I have more to live. I don't know. I think that balance is a constant state of motion. And then Then this other cool question was, how did you find your mentor? Now, I was on a panel where they were honoring very successful women that had done great things for the community, and they were interviewing entrepreneurs separate of the winners with these questions. What's the one person that, helped shape your life? Now, many of you know that I will say I come from a deeply committed family structure. Probably some would say, overbearing and too much in your business. But I had a grandmother who, God rest her soul, was full of unconditional love. And one of those ladies that would encourage me to try new things, maybe things that she had never even done in her life. And she had an old adage, whatever's going on in your life, just say thank you, even for the crappy stuff. Now, that was hard to bite down in my youth, before 18. It was like, say thank you for the crap. And she'd say thank you for everything and just keep moving forward. And that's kind of true of what we do here on Mavs Coffee Clarity, right? We look for those stories. We listen to the trials, the tribulations, the things that we'd never want to say thank you to. And we find those silver linings. And those silver linings and those failures, if you will, really are the rocket fuel to other successes. So I said, I've had a lot of mentors, my grandmother being the greatest, but sometimes your worst boss or your worst experience or your worst relationship is the greatest mentor because you learn so much. And I would say the one thing that not only my grandmother, but a friend of mine, Judith, would say, you've got today, you don't have tomorrow, and we've all heard it. That's why, the present is a gift. So yesterday is definitely good for you look in the rear view mirror and you've got some information that may help you make decisions today. But if you stay stuck too long in the rear view mirror, you know what's happening. You're off road. Looking forward, but being present is really, really important. And I think when I'm mentoring people, and I just said to some of the ladies that have been marketing assistants or interns here at Drive Media, I think we should have all these mavericks who have gone on to have really successful careers come back and share their wisdom. It's a multi-generational workplace. So everybody's important. You matter. The person next to you matters. And all age groups can learn up and down the legacy of life. I learned so much from my daughter, more recently just about AI and how to use AI in my business authentically, and what it can do for the future and some of the ethics behind it that might not be great. But I always look to her for her wisdom. They say out of the mouths of babes come these little pearls of wisdom. And then my mother used to say, we had a neighbor and her name was Eni. And Eni's adage to my mom was, watch the ladies that have gone before you or the women that have gone before you. They've made mistakes. Learn from their mistakes because you're going to make your own. So why make theirs double? Right? Learn from their mistakes. You're going to make your own. So this is all energy management, my friends. This is what creates balance, being open to other people's opinions, the multi-generational workforce, queuing up your energy so you're the best you can be when you're with anybody, and then knowing when to take a break. I will say that I've struggled with that over the years, and I love everything I do, so I'm a bit of a workaholic, and I find myself loving personal development and learning more and trying new things, and I do a lot of creative work. So my daughter will say, Mom, you're on the computer way too much, blah, blah, blah. It's 11 o'clock at night. What are you doing? I love what I do, but I do have to remind myself that it's okay to have some downtime, boredom time, me time, just walk on the beach time. And I've started to plan that in with my time management, right? And that affects my energy management. So what's balance, my friends? It's a constant state of emotion and motion. And it's energy management. And you might not see it, but I know you can feel it. So Mav's Coffee Clarity is in its second season. I think you know that. And I'm appreciative for you liking and sharing and being part of this fabulous community of Mavigators. You've all maved through something in your life. And I want to share with you that 2 weeks ago, we won Best Podcast 2025 through the Connecticut Press Club, my friends. That's right. So maybe those long hours and energy management and time management and all the great stuff that goes on with being in a community of really fabulous people that share their energy matters. So tune in. We're on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, wherever you find your favorite pods. Peace out, my friends. Mav has got to get back to work. Hey, that's a wrap for today, my friends. Thanks for listening, subscribing, and staying connected with me. Head on over to DeniseDigrigoli.com and learn a little bit more about my creative and strategic consulting services. While you're there, drop your name on the contact page. Sign up for my bi-weekly brew. It's fresh ideas delivered to your inbox a couple times a month for clarity, creativity, and better communication. It's based on my 3 decades as an entrepreneur, helping other people and businesses move forward. It's great business intel and life hacks that you can use for work, life, and self-care. And come on, who doesn't need that nowadays? Have a great rest of your day. Peace out, my friends. Mav has got to get back to work.